CPAC Now time, America Uncanceled. Tonight, Matt, we've got Senator Marsha Blackburn, the great senator from Tennessee, and she has a lot to say, let me tell you.
Yeah, look, Tennessee consistently ranks as one of the most conservative states in the country, and Marsha Blackburn consistently ranks as one of the most conservative members of Congress, and we love having her on.
Right, but let's get right to this. We know that President Biden is giving his joint session of Congress, his big speech tonight. What do you think he's going to say?
Well, I'm really interested to see if he's going to wear a mask during the speech or walk up to the podium with the mask, or I don't know exactly how he's going to do this.
It's the mask with the aviator glasses, and he'll take off the mask, put the aviator glasses back on. You know how it's going to be.
The one thing I know...
You know one thing is Nancy Pelosi is not going to rip the speech.
That's
that
right.
much you know.
And I do know that he'll leave the mask behind, because that's a continual thing with Joe Biden. But look, I think what we're going to see in the speech is this phony call for unity. You know, Joe Biden was elected to the presidency, I think by and large, to take us back to a normalcy, right? Like everyone said, oh, Trump is so abnormal, which is true. He was completely abnormal. He was actually getting stuff done, and that's not what normally happens in this town.
Not here in D.C., no.
And so it's this idea of unifying. So he's going to use all these calls, but how we have to come together. And then every single plank of the agenda is very offensive to half the country. So it's completely disuniting. So this is the thing that I think the Biden advisors can't kind of find harmony over. How do they say they're accomplishing his number one reason for getting elected, which is that he's going to unify us, when this agenda is so radical? Yeah,
there's no question. I think it's going to be a spend agenda is what we're going to see. It's going to be
kind of like when you and the girls go shopping. I know exactly what that is. Yeah.
We try to be so careful.
I know.
We really
that was a cheap shot. And then, actually a very expensive shot, but that's fine.
And then I do think you're going to see talk of the more extreme police reform. They're going to go after our cops because we've seen these incidents in these different states where you've seen bad cops that have led to this call for massive police reform, and it's a lot of pressure from the far left to make sure that they take immunity off of these, not allowing immunity for police officers.
Take away immunity so that every police officer is basically sued for any reason under the sun. And who would become a cop if you can lose all your financial future with just one split second of an emergency that goes the wrong way?
And then, of course, the big question will be, how is he going to address the border crisis?
Yeah.
I think that we've seen Kamala Harris, who apparently is a border czar, who has not even gone to go visit the border, has met with several of the Latin American leaders, but they're not proposing any concrete solutions. And I think that that's going to be a big question. But he is going to take credit for helping to solve the COVID pandemic. I do think that there's such a huge muddled message in terms of wear a mask, take a mask off, how many people can you get together with when you have your mask off. It is completely, I think, creating a lot of confusion.
Okay, so you bring up the masks. You tweet today, it's time to take the masks off the children. They don't need masks. And that was, of course, in regards to little Tony Fauci's interview with Savannah Guthrie about how now, listen to this, according to that stupid color-coded chart, that the kids have to wear masks, but the parents don't when they're outside, because the kids aren't vaccinated yet, because, as he admitted, we don't really have a vaccine for kids. By the way, we don't have a vaccine for kids because kids are not dying of Chinese corona.
That's right. Well, and the other point is that, we at the Schlapp household, it's a very interesting dynamic, because when Matt Schlapp, who hates wearing the mask, takes off the mask, little Lucia, the 9-year-old, quickly looks at me and says, "Mom, I'm taking off my mask." So if the adult is not wearing the mask, guess what? The Schlapp kids, they're not going to be wearing the mask. And I just think that we're at a point right now that when you have these kids wearing masks, when they have to play sports, and they can't even breathe because they have to be running, and they have to wear masks 6 hours a day at school, it's just gone overboard. And the mere fact is that the kids aren't getting COVID. I mean, they really are not. There's such a small percentage of children who even contract COVID, usually, can live through it. And they, again, so we got to stand up.
What Mercy's saying is this is what we think of the kids wearing masks.
That's right.
Okay.
You did it better than Nancy.
So the second tweet, and I'm going to take you to Twitter school here just a little bit. No, it's painful. Just listen.
Look, today it's about my tweets, not your tweets. So
I know, but I'm going to help you make them better.
Okay.
So the Joy Reid tweets, or the Daily Caller tweets about how Joy Reid said that she went jogging today while wearing 2 masks. Mercy responds.
Even though she's fully vaccinated, that's a big
Mercy
point.
responds, did she not see her boss's press conference earlier today?
That would be Joe Biden.
Your boss, not the head of MSNBC.
No.
Because it's
Joe Biden.
MSDNC.
Right.
But here's how I would have done the tweet.
Okay, tell me.
I would have said, what's more unbelievable? Joy Reid went jogging or that she wore 2 masks? Now, I know that's maybe a little bit mean, but
When's
I
the
would have
last time
said
you went
that
jogging, Schlapp? Seriously.
a long time.
Yeah, and if you would have
But
tweeted
here's
that
the
out,
thing.
that would have been
I
just
don't think-
scandalous once again.
I don't think Joy Reid went jogging, okay? It's just my view, but I haven't gone jogging in a long time. But
My
anytime,
recommendation, if she goes jogging, just don't wear a mask. You're fully vaccinated, and guess what? You'll get to breathe in the fresh air of the swamp.
That's exactly right. So look, I think that the mask insanity has risen to an absurd level.
Yes, yeah.
And here's what we're going to do. We're going to do like all conservatives. We're going to practice tolerance. We went to an event over the weekend. Some people wore masks, only a handful.
Right.
Nobody said anything nasty to them. They have every right to wear those masks.
Yes.
The 99.9% of people in those audiences who didn't wear masks, no one should say anything nasty to them.
Yeah.
When you go to Red America, the economy's open, the churches are full, the schools are full. Nobody's talking about Chinese corona except making fun of Joy Reid for wearing 2 masks or 3 while jogging. And the Red America's over at Blue America, having just walked around here in the swamp. The mask is
They're
on the
so
dog
scared.
and the person walking the dog.
Yeah. And guess what, guys? It's not good for the dog either, okay? So, but I want to point out one quick thing.
Speaking of dogs,
What?
go ahead.
What about dogs?
Your next tweet.
This has nothing to do with dogs. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I
Have
thought
you
he
read
was
this
kind
stuff?
of a little bit of a
Oh,
dog.
you're talking about John Kerry being a
Yes.
dog.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
you're catching
Schlapp.
on. This is good.
Sorry. So Representative Andy Biggs, great Republican.
Great guy.
He sent a letter. He said, just sent a letter to the Biden administration calling for the suspension of John Kerry's security clearance until his interactions with Iran are investigated. I think this is a very important move to make. I think that can be a very explosive story. It was the New York Times that reported it. And we need answers. We need answers from John Kerry and from the Biden administration on what, he's denying it, but this is a serious allegation.
He's a czar. That's a pretty big title. Someone with a big portfolio. And I also asked Twitter, why is it when a Republican is ever in trouble, their account gets throttled or canceled? What about John Kerry's account? Isn't it time to start to look at that?
As the Washington Post says, democracy dies in darkness. And the people who are making sure that democracy dies in darkness, not only big tech, some of these big corporations, and some of these members of the Biden administration. And they got to be held accountable for their actions. And we're going to talk about this more with Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee, who's joining us
next.
like right now.
So don't go away. Welcome back to CPAC Now. We are very lucky because one of our absolute favorite senators is joining us, the very conservative, the wonderful Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. Thanks for being with us, Senator.
Always delighted to join you. Thank you so much.
And you know what? She must have been an A student in school because she's got like an A as
Plus.
part of an A plus as part of the ACU congressional ratings, which I don't know if you got to see Congressman Eric Swalwell point out that he got a 0%. So he flunked in the ACU ratings and actually was very proud of that, of getting that rating.
Well, I imagine he was, but I think that he has probably excelled at cozying up with the communist Chinese. What do you think?
Well, not just the government, but also some of their agents, apparently. But
Yes.
Senator, we have a big speech tonight. Joe Biden's going to address the country. He's going to address this joint session of Congress. What do you expect to happen tonight?
Oh, I think it's going to be a very sleepy, lazy speech, and he's going to lay out a leftist agenda. We can count on him to go left. And, you know, one of the things that I thought about as I was looking at what he's going to propose tonight, which he thinks he's going to talk about the warm fuzzies, butter, this, that, and the other. Remember when Barack Obama rolled out the life of Julia? And everyone said, oh, this is crazy, and made fun of it. But look at what they are doing. They are going just like the life of Julia. They are supplanting the family with the federal government. You don't need a husband. There are marriage penalties that are on the books when it comes to taxes, but you're going to have pre-K that starts at 3 years old. 3 years old, government-run pre-K. You're going to have your college loans come from the federal government. If somebody pays your college bill, they're probably going to be able to tell you what you ought to study. And there are all of these incentives for what teachers can teach, which are left-leaning revisionist history. And I think that he is going to lay this out like good old Uncle Joe, just trying to help people out. And what it is a very radical, it is a very upsetting, concerning, radical takeover of this country.
Well, I got to tell you, Senator, I think the life of Julia, she's probably going to be wearing a mask throughout her whole entire life in the rate we're going, and have to get multiple vaccines for that matter. But, you know, I do think that one of the issues they're going to, one of the things that I'm sure he will not acknowledge is that it was President Trump and through Operation Warp Speed that we have what Matt loves to call the Trump vaccine. And he's going to get really, I mean, President Biden's going to get all the credit for it. And I'm going to be curious as well to see what you were saying earlier about, you know, all these expenses where they call child care infrastructure, where they call elder care infrastructure. How expensive are all these packages going to be?
Well, of course, we are well at right at $4 trillion. At the end of the year, passed another 1.9. That put us at $6 trillion. They're trying to do another 2.25 trillion in infrastructure, and we hear his proposals like for human infrastructure are going to be another $2 trillion. So it used to be $1 billion here and $1 billion there, but with Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the Democrats, it's $1 trillion here and $1 trillion there.
Which means more taxes on the middle class, more taxes on those who are self-employed, more taxes on those who own small businesses. I just think it's so hurtful for our economy and for our workers.
Well, you're exactly right about that. Look at what they're doing. I was talking to two of my county mayors in different parts of the state earlier today, doing a virtual meeting with them. And each of those county mayors separately were talking about how worried they are when you talk about doubling the cap gains tax, because it's not big corporations and that's going to hurt. It's the mom and pop. It's a small business manufacturer that's doing tool and die. And he is ready to expand his plant and take on another 15 workers and add another line or pick up another account. It is the small business on Main Street that is looking to sell furniture and home decor items. And they were all ready to invest that money. And they can't find workers to hire so that they can open the doors. And they're very frustrated about that. They're ready to invest. And now they're beginning to think, well, maybe I ought not to open that store. These are the kinds that are going to hurt Main Street in a lot of small towns. It is hurting family farms. When you look at stepped up basis and trying to pass that farm on to the next generation. And I've talked to farmers that are third, fourth generation to farm their farms and to work there, have their children there. And they're very concerned about what this does to the next generation of their family, how this is going to disadvantage them. So you're right, Mercy, when you say it is going to hurt small businesses and small towns.
So I have a question for you. You know, they say the Senate is a club. One of your former club members seems to be awfully cozy with the regime in Iran, with the mullahs of Iran. It came out recently that potentially John Kerry was briefing the mullahs in Iran about steps that Israel was taking militarily to make sure there was security in that region of the globe. We have what John Kerry did on this terrible, disastrous Iranian nuclear deal, which Joe Biden is bringing back on a fast pace. What do we need to know about John Kerry? Does this story disturb you?
Oh, listen, this is unbelievable that he would be out there and giving classified information to Zarif, letting Iran know what Israel was doing, basically outing Israel. This is unbelievable. The fact that he would, in his arrogance, because he's no longer Secretary of State, he's not calling the shots, but the fact that he would put the lives of American diplomats, the lives of American military men and women in danger, just because it makes him feel important or feel cool. I'm telling you, this is something that, should we investigate it? Absolutely. Should he be forced out of administration? Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's what I was going to get to. You know, he's a member of the Biden administration. This is one of the most serious breaches you could have while serving. Should he be impeached? If this is true.
There were some of us talking about that this morning, is what would be the appropriate punishment for John Kerry. And impeachment as a federal servant is something absolutely that should be on the table, because giving this classified information, and you've got Mike Pompeo, who's the Secretary of State, out here doing the work that he was doing at that point in time, and then you've got John Kerry working against the United States and giving this information to Zarif. It's just,
it tells you a lot, Senator. It tells you a lot that Mike Pompeo has a big security detail because he was so hard on Iran, right? Tells you everything you need to know. I think John Kerry has a little less so. Let's just say that.
And I think there's concerns as well with the Biden administration that they're looking to ease sanctions on Iran. So there's a pattern here coming from this administration where they prefer to align themselves with these horrific regimes, not just Iran, but China. And I know, Senator Blackburn, you have been a champion on speaking up against China and their human rights abuses. Walk us through, I know you have legislation that you've put out there as well. Walk us through what you've been doing to be tough on China.
Well, first of all, the first thing is we have to realize that China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea form the new axis of evil. These are our adversaries. They do not wish us well, and they rely on one another for different strengths, and they use one another to poke at the U.S. Of course, China feels like that the 21st century should be the China century. So there are several things that we need to be working on. Number one, hitting China in the pocketbook. Begin to repatriate our critical supply line manufacturing back to the United States, and returning that active pharmaceutical ingredient manufacturing back to the U.S. is actually legislation that Menendez and I filed before COVID last year. And then, of course, we realized how essential it was once we got into COVID, and they decided they didn't want to give us active pharmaceutical ingredients to create a vaccine. And of course, we continue to say thank you, President Donald Trump, for getting a vaccine to market in not 9 years, 9 months. That is phenomenal. So dealing with semiconductor chips, microprocessors, lithium-ion batteries, rare earth minerals, and moving that to us and our allies so that manufacturing is close at hand. That affects our healthcare and pharmaceuticals. It affects our electronic devices, our automobiles, appliances. That would help us with that manufacturing complex. Second thing is holding the Chinese Communist Party accountable for the human rights violations that they are committing against the Uyghurs, the Hong Kong freedom fighters, the Tibetans, the Inner Mongolians, because actually the CCP is carrying out a genocide against the Uyghurs. That is the Muslim ethnic minority, and they are trying to make them extinct. In the meantime, while they have them in these internment camps, concentration camps, they are using them as slave labor. This slave labor is making products for big tech. It is making products for NBA and MLB licensed merchandise. They're even making the uniforms for the Olympics that are still scheduled to be in Beijing. So, in addition to that, big tech has a component of this, and it is making certain that we do not let Huawei, their technology producer, Chinese Communist Party owned company, into our reliable and clean networks.
Let me ask you a question on that. Marco Rubio has a bill that says that if an American company is working with the CCP, the Communist Chinese government in China, or companies they control, basically state-owned enterprises, that if you're working with the government in China, you shouldn't be able to have contracts with our government, with the American government. You think that legislation is aimed in the right direction?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That is how we keep Huawei and Chinese chip technology out of our communication systems. And we extend that not only to our networks, but to our allies. That's why the clean network that Japan has been so involved in has been so vitally important to us. And it is why we're so concerned about what China is doing with the Belt and Road Initiative and their debt diplomacy initiative. Take, for instance, Africa. If you go to Djibouti in the Horn of Africa, they have a great port there. The Chinese said, if you will allow us to put a port, a terminal in this port, we will give you all the technology you need for your country. We'll put cameras at every corner. We will make certain that your people all have cell phones. We will do this for you free. Of course, it's all Huawei. Huawei is building a database of individuals so that they can track and follow them. And the Communist Chinese, they put that shipping terminal in, but then they decided to put a Chinese Navy, a naval base right next to it. And what are they using that for? Well, they've got submarines. They are working to build this deep water Navy out with more vessels than we have, more subs than we have. They are working on a thorium small modular reactor for these submarines so that they can go farther, stay out longer. This is something that is a very frightening occurrence with them.
So obviously it's a field day, right? The Chinese the Chinese communists are looking at a weak Biden presidency, and it's a field day for them. They are taking pure advantage.
Yeah,
I just want to get a quick answer on HR 1. We know that it passed in the House. It's in the Senate now. This is the Democrats' efforts of federalizing these elections, of getting rid of voter IDs, despite the fact that so many Americans support voter IDs. What do you think is going to happen in the Senate?
I think there are many of us who are going to slow this down as much as we can. And I'm not sure they're going to be able to get 51 votes for this, or even get 60 to get on the bill. So one of the things, I was talking to somebody earlier today, Mercy, and they said, 2022 cannot get here fast enough.
Oh,
I
tell us about it. Yes.
You're right. Oh my God. Here's to 2022. I will tell you this, Senator. Mercy and I both traveled to Kansas. We did some fundraisers for ACU, and we went and met with some Republicans at their state meetings. And I have never seen Americans so fired up and angry at Washington, D.C. I'm sure you're having the same thing happen in the volunteer state?
Oh, we're seeing it in the volunteer state. And I was in Indiana Friday night for two of my Senate colleagues, Todd Young and Mike Braun, and spoke at a big Republican dinner there. And I'm telling you, they had a sold out crowd. They had about 500 people, could put no one else in the room, had a waiting list to a party dinner. I'm just so pleased to see people enthusiastic. But, you know, I think there are a lot of independent voters out there. I talked to a woman in Tennessee 6 weeks ago. She said, you know, I voted for Joe Biden. She said, Marcia, you know I voted for him. But I did not vote for this.
Yes.
And what they're doing is frightening me. I am fearful for what they're going to do for the futures, for my children and grandchildren. A lot of buyer's remorse. For those of us that are conservatives, that is a buying sign. People are ready to listen.
Amen.
Well, and they love listening to you, and we appreciate everything you do for ACU and for CPAC. And we have great news because we're going to be in Dallas for another big CPAC, July 9th through the 11th. So I'm going to work really hard on your scheduler to make sure we get you there. Okay, Senator?
I would love to be there. We really appreciate you all and the work that you do, and to help to really educate the American people so that they know what is going on. Because, you know, it's like the John Kerry situation. All of your mainstream media blocked the story out, even though it was the New York Times that broke the story.
Yeah.
But they're not telling the American people. Here is a guy who ought not to be in public service, because he has put the lives of every man and woman that puts on a uniform, every diplomat, in danger, because he ratted out classified information, what was being done by Israel in order to protect themselves. They are our greatest ally, and Iran is the largest state sponsor of terrorism.
That's right. Well, you used the right word. You used the word rat. Very well done. I like your diction. Senator Marsha Blackburn, thanks for all you do in the Senate. I know you got to get back to work. Let's see what Joe Biden has to say tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
I don't know if it's spring fever, but I'm in a mood right now where we got to be talking about some good news, right? Don't you think,
Good news.
Schla?
Come on.
I'm so tired of like Biden's dark winter. Like, we're going to take it up a notch, go into spring, and we want to just share with you what's going on across the country. First things first, this is breaking. Republican Idaho Governor Brad Little signs a bill banning abortions after fetal heartbeat detected. That is, again, along the lines of what we saw with the Oklahoma governor. These Republicans are being bold. They're taking action while our so-called Catholic religious president disrespectfully disagrees with the Catholic Church when it comes to using fetal aborted parts
And
science research.
And science.
Yeah.
Disagrees with science.
Yeah.
But we're supposed to listen to the science.
Right, that's
Come
right.
on, is there more good news?
We got to keep
let me
praying
know.
for Joe Biden. Yes, the next one is, finally, we get to your tweets, obviously, because you don't think my tweets are good enough. But it was really a great photo. It was Cape and Mount Carmel, which is where you went to high school.
That's right,
about,
Cape and Mount Carmel.
100 years ago.
KMC.
And that's where our nieces are graduating from them. From there, they're going to Notre Dame next year
That's
with
right.
our daughter. And it said that the senior class is on countdown to graduation, and they took their class panoramic picture yesterday. Go Crusaders. Did you used to wear like your Go Crusaders t-shirt and everything? And then you said, no mask inside, I miss Kansas.
No mask in this big group photo from the graduating class. And I want to tell you quickly who Father Capon was. Father Capon was a chaplain in the Korean War and in World War II. He actually re-upped to join the conflict in Korea. And he had lived this amazing life taking care of all the POWs. He died, was killed in Korea, and they just found his remains. He's in the process with the Catholic Church, hopefully to become a saint, and his remains will be coming back to America soon, and we're going to help them make sure that they do this right. What a great man, and I always think, I wonder what he'd be saying if he was around today.
And I got to meet a fellow in Kansas whose son actually was one of the miracles.
Yeah.
Who they prayed to Father Capon, and they usually need to get 2 miracles before
That's
they
right.
can be considered.
But now, we don't want to get our Protestant friends all worked up.
Right.
It's not Father Capon who performs the miracle. We believe it's our Savior who performs the miracle, but we do believe that there are holy men and women who intervene for us and try to help us. And
Schlapp needs a long way to go to get to Saint. That's all I can say. Okay,
Father
and then the
Capon, pray for us.
last last tweet, another Matt Schlapp specialty. I really actually thought that those aviator glasses that Joe Biden wore in his press conference when he dramatically took off his mask, I thought he looked great. I said,
did.
I have to say, I like the sunglasses. I try to be nice once in a while.
That's right.
You respond by saying, sweetheart, I'll be sleeping outside. I don't think that's good for our marriage, but why?
Because basically Joe Biden says you can only take off your mask if you're outside. So guess what? I guess I'm sleeping outside. A lot of us guys know what that's like. But anyway, I'm not putting on the mask. It's not happening. The only place I think it's good to put on a mask, I really like it in bathrooms. Public bathrooms, I think it's awesome. I really believe in the mask in public bathrooms.
All right, we're done
but for
with you.
completely other reasons.
We're done.
Okay.
We're done. So what do our wonderful listeners, viewers have to do?
I think she's trying to tell me that it's my job to close this show. Listen, we love coming at you 3 times a week, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go to conservative.org, click the link. Our website is going under lots of sprucing up and new changes. You're going to be able to get lots of information on that website. Follow Mercedes on Twitter at
Mercedes Schlapp.
Follow me on Twitter at mschlapp. Follow me on Instagram. I have no idea how to do that because I've never opened up Instagram, but I'm going to learn. You're going to help me learn. How do they follow you on Instagram?
Same, at Mercedes Schlapp. And also remember, CPAC Texas. That information's coming very, very soon on conservative.org. July 9th through the 11th in Dallas, Texas. It will be hot, 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 with some great speakers, right?
This is going to be just like Florida, folks. You're going to want to be there. It's going to be a who's who of those folks who want to be the president, the governors you love, the senators and congressmen you love, the people you see on TV who you love. They're all going to be there. So you got to join us. And don't do what happened in Florida in Texas. Everybody thought they could get their ticket at the end. Mistake.
Yes.
Get them now. I know they're not quite available yet, but they will be in just a couple of days.
Yeah, and we'll keep you posted. But let us know what you think about the show. And also send us your pictures. They might pop up in the show, which would be great. Good night, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow.